Look, she's fallen into a deep sleep.
After she parked in the shopping mall's lot, she turned her attention to my daughter sleeping in the back seat. The engine went silent, and as the AC shut off, the temperature inside the car began to climb rapidly under the summer sun. Sweat quickly beaded on my daughter's forehead. My mother-in-law locked the car and left for her shopping alone with a content smile. My name is Mia, I'm 29 and working in an office. My husband, David, our 3-year-old daughter, Lisa, and I make a happy trio. But in truth, we're a family of 5. My father-in-law is reserved, and my mother-in-law is assertive in all the wrong ways. When David and I got engaged, I knew we'd live with his parents due to his father's poor mobility and my mother-in-law's reluctance to drive, making hospital trips challenging. David has always lived with his parents, and I've admired his dedication to family. Having lived with my grandparents as a child, I had no particular resistance to living with my in-laws. However, 5 years into this arrangement, I'm painfully aware of how naive I was. My mother-in-law is extremely short-tempered, too thrifty, and has a habit of repeating small acts of harassment. Indeed, I remember that my grandmother, with whom I once lived, was not such a person. I'm not certain how she behaved when I was not around, but I remember spending time together amicably, at least on the surface. Therefore, I had never really believed in the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts depicted in TV dramas and documentaries, thinking they were just difficult situations. However, my mother-in-law's appearance overturned such beliefs from the ground up.
Now that you have stepped into this house, you must follow the rules I have set.
She always said this, and I ended up taking on all the household chores. From preparing meals to cleaning, laundry, gardening, and even washing the car, I always had to observe and mimic my mother-in-law's way of doing things. Therefore, when I did the chores alone, my mother-in-law would intentionally stop what she was doing just to watch me closely.
I'm really happy that Mom and me are getting along so well.
Although he said this, we could only force a wry smile. Being sent on errands by my mother-in-law and going out frequently, I became acquainted with the neighbors, who would often sympathize, saying, "It must be hard with such a strict mother." The mother-in-law, known in the community as a notoriously difficult elderly woman, had a history of making David's past girlfriends miserable according to the stories. David, attractive and likable, seemed to be avoided by women, presumably due to his mother's harsh criticisms. I entered the marriage unaware of this, and the realization was a shock. Life with David was smooth, and my father-in-law was a gentle soul. My only concern was my mother-in-law, whom I believed I just had to endure for peace. But when my pregnancy became known, and it was revealed we were having a girl, her demeanor drastically changed.
Girls L will just end up getting married off. She's not worth raising. Just make sure the next one is a boy.
The child coming is precious, irrespective of gender. It's disheartening to hear otherwise. Unless there's a specific reason like a family business to continue. That isn't our situation, is it?
Our family has a long lineage of landowners, and we cannot allow the family name to end.
David never cared much for such traditions, and he eagerly anticipated the future with our daughter, openly relishing his role as a father. However, my mother-in-law never expressed her preference for a boy in front of David, but in private, she was insistent.
You should have a boy.
Her approach could be described as sly. After Lisa's birth, my mother-in-law's demeanor did not change. In the presence of David or my father-in-law, she showed overflowing affection towards Lisa, but could be abruptly cold when Lisa sought affection, especially when she was in a bad mood.
Grandma is scary.
As Lisa began to express herself, she increasingly found her grandmother intimidating and naturally kept her distance.
It seems Lisa is afraid of you, Mom. Did you do something?
David's firm expression might have been overwhelming, as afterwards, my mother-in-law started to change, actively engaging with Lisa, like playing with her in the park. Yet, the mistreatment towards me did not stop and even intensified. Nevertheless, I was not perturbed by minor issues anymore, and above all, I was grateful for the improved way she treated Lisa. As Lisa started to warm up to her grandmother, I made the decision to extend working hours while continuing with childcare. David and I coordinated our schedules, and on weekdays for a few hours, Lisa was looked after by her grandparents, sparing us the need for daycare. To my surprise, my father-in-law was pleased with this setup and became eager to engage with Lisa. Consequently, my mother-in-law, albeit reluctantly, seemed to be taking proper care of her. Right now, I was shocked, responding to an unexpected call to work, under the stern gaze of my mother-in-law. David had a longer than usual shift that day, and with my father-in-law attending a wedding early in the morning, Lisa was to be left alone with her grandmother for an extended period. I informed David of the situation, urging him to return home as soon as he could. I considered a short-term daycare solution, but it seemed unlikely on such short notice.
I'll take Lisa to the mall, so go quickly and come back early.
Let's go.
Lisa's enthusiasm was evident as she tugged at her grandmother's hand. excited by the unexpected offer. I was taken aback and filled with gratitude, thanking my mother-in-law repeatedly. After giving Lisa detailed instructions to follow her grandmother's lead, I rushed to my workplace. Later that afternoon, a phone call turned my world upside down. It was a police.
We've taken your daughter into protective custody. She was locked in a car, and a passerby rescued her. Your daughter is waiting in the mall's management office. Please come as soon as possible.
I told myself that if the police were involved, Lisa was safe and sound. Despite multiple attempts, I couldn't reach my mother-in-law and was filled with concern. After I explained the situation to a security guard at the mall, he quickly ushered me inside. I found Lisa in a room surrounded by officers, and she ran to me as soon as she saw me. Holding my crying daughter, I was relieved and calmed by her safety. The knowledge that she had been left in the car and seeing her unharmed was overwhelming, and my heart raced until I saw her. Today, under the clear skies, the temperature is high and the heat is palpable. Children, having higher body temperatures than adults, are at greater risk of dehydration. The thought of such a worst-case scenario makes me shudder with anxiety. Therefore, I held Lisa tightly. Despite numerous attempts to contact my mother-in-law, with the call log now exceeding 20 entries, there was no response. With growing anxiety and no other way to confirm the truth, I had to meet with my mother-in-law directly. I explained to the officer how I had left Lisa with my mother-in-law before heading to work. The officer informed me that no such person was seen when Lisa was found, and I realized my mother-in-law must have left her in the car. Lisa doesn't yet have the strength to unbuckle herself or open the car doors. The thought that she might not have been noticed by the passerby who helped her filled me with indignation towards my mother-in-law. Considering the possibility that my mother-in-law might still be inside the store, I planned to search around and then return home if she was not found. Lisa clung to me the whole time, so I decided to buy her some juice to distract her. The officers also offered to help search for my mother-in-law, and I was grateful for their assistance. I had already received a reply to the email I sent David 30 minutes ago, and I sent another to inform him that I was currently with Lisa looking for my mother-in-law and to wait for us at home after work. David's email was riddled with obvious typos, a clear sign of his inner turmoil. Showing our daughter that we're upset would only amplify her anxiety. Thus, I decided it was best for David to wait at home for now. To soothe Lisa, I wandered the store aisles, buying her favorite juice and snacks.
Let's go shopping together.
My mother-in-law, who avoids driving, often lured me out with such invitations. Usually, these were sudden proposals on the morning of, and I would have to adjust my full schedule of household tasks to accommodate her. She would have me drive her around, then immerse herself in her shopping without a word of thanks, and the day would end. On days when David and my father-in-law were busy with other commitments, I had to cater to Lisa's whims. The temptations of the shopping mall are many, and Lisa's requests to buy things were incessant. Despite being experienced in childcare, my mother-in-law would shop for hours on end without concern, while I pacified Lisa on the sidelines. In the past, I've felt a wave of irritation at my mother-in-law's selfish actions, like when she complained to security that she was left behind after I decided to take Lisa and head home early due to her unreasonableness. Remembering this still stirs anger within me. And now, her actions towards Lisa are not something I can overlook. I vowed to find her no matter what. Scanning carefully, I scrutinized each face in the crowd. Amidst this, Lisa suddenly pointed behind me and exclaimed,
Grandma.
I spun around reflexively to see my mother-in-law walking up behind me with a look of surprise. Then, as if startled by something, she quickly moved away and ran towards the parking lot. Wait a minute, please. I chased after my mother-in-law, shouting. Thanks to the weekend crowd in the store, I didn't lose sight of her. Passing through the automatic doors and reaching the multi-story parking lot, I saw my mother-in-law's car and realized something was amiss. What is this? Muttering to myself, I noticed the rear seat window was shattered.
This is your doing, isn't it?
She accused me with anger in her voice. No, I didn't do this. I counted, losing my composure.
Who else could it be? What are you going to do about this car? Pay for the damages immediately.
She demanded insistently. The whole sequence of events started with you leaving this child in the car. She's only 3 years old. You must know about the accidents where children in cars die of heat stroke. Are you willing to risk your own granddaughter's life? I retorted to my mother-in-law. My usual compliance seemed to take her aback for a moment. Looking around, I realized that a crowd had gathered to witness our confrontation. Feeling the eyes of the onlookers, my mother-in-law got into the car with the broken window.
Remember this when we get home. You'll be paying for these damages.
With those threatening words, she revved the engine and sped off. I saw the shards of glass scattering as she drove away, feeling the danger of the moment.
Stop right there.
The officer who had been talking to me shouted loudly and moved quickly towards my mother-in-law's car, out of breath. At the police's intervention, my mother-in-law's complexion changed, and her earlier momentum disappeared as she obediently followed the officer's commands. After parking the car where directed, she was surrounded by several officers and led out of the car to a back entrance.
Please come this way.
We were directed to follow, and soon found my mother-in-law sitting in the same type of chair that Lisa had been in just hours before. Lisa had fallen asleep in my arms, completely relieved. One of the officers addressed my mother-in-law in a stern voice.
Why did you leave your granddaughter in the car?
What's more problematic is that my car window has been broken. That constitutes vandalism. As the police, you should catch the culprit. And I'm certain that this woman is the one responsible.
The broken window was not her doing. Another customer saw that Lisa was trapped inside the car and broke the window to rescue her.
What?
When they were about to enter the shopping mall, they happened to pass by your car and heard Lisa crying faintly. With the help of her husband, they broke the window, took Lisa out of the car, and immediately reported it to us. Based on Lisa's body temperature when she was rescued, it was unlikely that she had been trapped inside for a long time. We were able to respond smoothly because of this information, and from Lisa's belongings, we quickly found your contact details and were able to reach out to you.
While nodding desperately, I tried to hold back the tears that were welling up. The thought of what could have happened to my daughter if that passerby hadn't been there made me tremble with fear.
Yes, actually, I usually shop alone, so I simply forgot that I had my granddaughter with me. I realized it as soon as I entered the store. When I was about to return, I saw her with my granddaughter and thought she might have broken the window.
However, ma'am, the dash cam recorded that you knew your granddaughter was sleeping in the backseat, and you even put up curtains to make it not visible from the outside.
Why would you watch such footage? That's a violation of privacy. Not even the police are allowed to do that.
She protested vehemently, slamming her hand on the desk. The loud noise woke Lisa, so I picked her up and left the room. Even through the thick door, my mother-in-law's shouts were clearly audible. The dash cam also seemed to have recorded my mother-in-law telling Lisa to have a nice nap. Her actions were clear, and with the video evidence, escaping her guilt seemed impossible. Faced with the officer's stern interrogation, my mother-in-law seemed to have reached her limit.
It's all because that woman gave birth to a daughter. I thought if the child was gone, she would have a boy next.
This shocking confession was apparently made by her. I heard this story later from an officer, as I wasn't there since Lisa had just woken up and was in a bad mood. There is nothing more painful for a parent than to have their child taken lightly. Had I heard my mother-in-law's statement directly, I might have lashed out at her, even in front of the police. But that opportunity never came because she was taken straight to the police station. Later, wanting to know more about my mother-in-law's actions, David and my father-in-law visited the police station. They were told that she had been arrested and sentenced to prison for child abandonment. Even now, with her guilt confirmed, my mother-in-law refuses to serve her time and has hired a lawyer to appeal for a retrial. Given her lack of remorse for her wrongdoing towards Lisa, I suggested to David that we must avoid meeting her after she completes her sentence. David and my father-in-law agreed, and my father-in-law has declared divorce through legal experts.
I will never see her again.
David declared, furious about the harm done to Lisa. Despite her continued attempts to seek support from relatives, the gravity of her crime caused her to lose trust, and no one was willing to offer help. She will likely spend her later years in solitude after her release. The commotion became a topic of interest in the community, prompting us to look for a new place to live.
I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused.
He apologized and offered to help with moving expenses from his savings. The house we had lived in was sold, and my father-in-law chose to live alone near our new home.
I plan to start a new life.
He expressed his intention to move forward positively. Half a year passed, and once our daily life had settled, we discovered we were expecting a second child. Ironically, we were blessed with the son my mother-in-law had wished for. But in our family, gender makes no difference. We will love our son just as we love Lisa. Every day, Lisa gently strokes my belly, eagerly awaiting her brother's birth. Since entering the stable period, we occasionally visit my father-in-law's house, strengthening our family bond. He rejoices in Lisa's growth and shows a warm smile every time she visits. My mother-in-law was a longtime companion to my father-in-law, so his feelings must be complex. We hope to support each other as a family and lead a happier home life moving forward.